Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's broadcast of Tap Into the Truth. Hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are and whatever you may be doing. With you as always, I am your very humble host. Funny how I have to emphasize very, isn't it? My name is Tim Tapp, and I am here tonight to talk to you about things that matter. Sometimes people don't always understand what matters because they have their own individual priorities. These individual priorities, of course, sometimes make it a very short-sighted incident. People get caught up in what their daily routine is, and unfortunately, lots of people simply lose track of why it's important to keep an eye on the folks in D.C., why it's important to keep an eye on the folks at their state capitals, why it's important to keep an eye on the folks that are doing things halfway around the world. Because like it or not, whether you believe it or not, these things will impact your life. Maybe not immediately, maybe not right away, and maybe not even in ways that you realize that that's what's happening. But nonetheless, it happens. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about religious freedom laws, especially the backlash in Indiana. We're also going to talk a little bit about questions you may have about them. We're going to talk about a new medical story that's making its way around that's somewhat ironic. But we're going to go ahead and start with a story that is going around late today involving an x-ray. Ordinarily, I make you wait a while for the main topic that I title the show after. I need an x-ray to prove what? But this time, I think this is something that is so asinine, so very important that we discuss it early on. This would be unbelievable, except that you have to understand where we're at with our government. We talk a lot on this show about how we don't treat our veterans the way we should. This is a wonderful example of that. The Department of Veterans Affairs wanted to prove that Army veteran Chad Fleming was actually an amputee. So, instead of referencing his extensive medical records, or simply looking to see that he's missing his left leg, they insisted that he get an x-ray taken of his artificial limb. Fleming was quoted as saying, "You think that they'd just look at my records and say, you know what? We bought 14 legs. This guy's an amputee." But no. The doctor actually laughed and told him, "I said, quote, you wonder why this country is in such a deficit? It's because we're wasting money taking x-rays of a leg that doesn't exist." He also said, "It's like, dude, I'm not a starfish. It isn't going to grow back." Now, ultimately, this is the story. This happened. The Veterans Affairs Office told this guy that they've got to take an x-ray of his artificial leg to prove that it's not real. Now, we've had one big thing after another scandal-ridden as of the last 2 years, once this hit the media, about how poor of a job our Veterans Affairs Department has been taking care of our veterans. Now, if you are a vet and you've needed any medical care, you've already known for some time how bad of a job they've been doing. And there are times where it may be an issue of money, but more than likely, more often than not, it's simply a matter of incompetence and not caring. There is absolutely no explanation as to why this was the course of action that was required. For them to simply sit back and say, okay, this is what we've got to do. You've got to be kidding me. And I posted a link to this story that has been running at Fox and at The Blaze, and it's been picked up several other places, and by morning, folks are going to be talking about this story just about everywhere. I guarantee it. But I linked this story onto the Tap Into the Truth Facebook page, and the responses have been wild. I had one person actually comment directly. Several people, though, they get on there and they send me direct messages. And I've gotten all kinds of messages from par for the course to not really surprising to... There are a lot of veterans that check out the page. And, you know, I'm proud to say that several folks that are personal friends of mine actually are veterans. And they see this stuff show up on their timeline, and, you know, they scratch their heads, and they tell me nothing new, nothing different. Just more of the same level of incompetence. Which brings us to the ultimate question. Why on earth are we not treating our veterans better than this? Now, that's a legitimate question that should have been asked and has been being asked by folks for some time now. Like I said, we talk about it here. I know a lot of other people talk about it. I've had guests on the show that are doing pro bono work trying to help protect veterans from abuses. But ultimately, this still comes down to the fact that it is shameful for any administration to allow our veterans to receive inferior treatment. These people have stood on a line, have stood on a wall, have stood in harm's way to protect the freedoms that we enjoy. Now, maybe not every last single one of them had the purest of motivations, but it doesn't matter. What's relevant is the fact that these people did that. They stood in harm's way. And we made a promise to them. We made a promise that we would take care of them, that we would do the things that were necessary for them to have an enjoyable quality of life when they returned. We're falling far from reaching that promise. A guarantee that was made to them, a guarantee that I feel personally responsible to try and push. Because I personally appreciate what these people have done. I've had veterans in the family, so I know the sacrifices that get made. It's not summer camp. These people risked their lives. These people come back with missing body parts sometimes, if they're fortunate enough to come back at all. The ones that don't have visible scars, have emotional scars. We need, every time we see a story like this, we need to refocus. The VA faced a scandal not long ago. Things were changed. People were repositioned. They shuffled the deck. Things are supposed to be getting better. I think it's pretty obvious when you see a story like this, things are not getting better. Things are not improving. Maybe a little, maybe marginally in one or two locations. But there is no way, none, zero chance that it seems reasonable to anybody that I have to go get an x-ray to prove that I'm actually missing my left leg. It's not enough for me to take the prosthetic off in front of you, see what's left. No, that's not good enough. It's not reasonable for you to simply look at my medical charts. Oh, no, that's not good enough. Somebody could have forged them. What we really need to do is we need to spend the money, waste the time to set up an x-ray. I mean, it would be different if he actually needed an x-ray for some other purpose. You know, I mean, I could get behind that. I'm all for it. Let's do what needs to be done in order to take care of these people. But just to prove I don't have a leg. What leg did they have to stand on when it comes to explaining why this was required? Absolutely asinine. All right, I don't want to harp anymore on this story. Like I said, a lot of folks will be talking about it. I think you might see this story pop back up this upcoming Sunday. Although, actually, I haven't made 100% certainty that I'm going to broadcast this Sunday. Normally, the Sunday show is a 2-hour show. I do it over at Blog Talk, and normally have guests on. Yeah, that kind of wonderful stuff. But since this upcoming Sunday is actually Easter Sunday, I have made a point of broadcasting on Easter Sundays past. But I haven't necessarily convinced myself that I'm going to do it this year. I probably will. But even if I do, it'll probably be a abbreviated version of the show. But I promise you, this will be in the running for Outrage of the Week, the Outrage of the Week segment that is part of the regular broadcast on Sunday. And speaking of the Sunday show, in case you missed it, the last couple of weeks have actually been very interesting shows with a couple of great interviews. You might want to go back and check out the show. Easiest way to do that, of course, is to either go directly to Blog Talk, which a lot of people here at Spreaker don't want to do. That's fine. I understand. You can also check out the show at Stitcher.com. If you're looking for the Sunday show, it's easy enough to find on Stitcher. If you'll just browse shows, then pull up News and Politics, then hit Conservative Politics, and then go down the page a little bit, you'll find Tap Into the Truth just above Fox News Sunday. Primo positioning, actually. And the numbers over at Stitcher have been outstanding, by the way. I'm very, very pleased. But you also can find us at TuneIn.com. TuneIn.com actually merges both shows into the same thing, so you can just search for Tap Into the Truth. Remember, that's T-A-P-P, Into the Truth. You can also just go to Stitcher and search if you like. I forget which is which over there now. I went over this before, but put quotation marks around Tap and it will take you to one show. Leave the quotation marks off around Tap and it'll take you to the other show. It's easy enough to find, and it'll be easy enough for you to tell the difference. Same thing over at iTunes. And of course, there's still other ways to find the show in podcast form later on. But I highly recommend you check it out. I had 2 weeks ago, Oklahoma State Senator Joseph Silk. We had a great conversation, about 45 minutes worth of time, where we discussed both the religious freedom bill that he had introduced and all of the blowback that he faced, mostly getting really agitated when he gave an interview to the New York Times, and they took part of a quote in the statement that he made, and, well, the rest is history. He started getting all kinds of mean, despicable statements directed at him, death threats directed at his children. His family was threatened. They did all kinds of stuff. And we talked about the bill itself. We talked about the backlash that came from it, and we talked about how the people that were actually behind the backlash aren't really the people that do a very good job of representing the gay and lesbian community. Because naturally, those are the folks that got upset. And I don't want to go any more into it other than to say, got some nasty comments from folks on the left who saw postings for the show. Based on comments that they made, however, it's pretty obvious they didn't bother to listen to the show. Hello, before you make comments, please actually listen to what's being said. Because you can crack on me all day for anything I said. Don't waste my time or anybody else's time with other stuff. And then last week, Rod Eccles was on. He is a gentleman who happens to host another broadcast